Hey, good morning. Scott Luton, Greg White, and Enrique Alvarez with you here on Supply Chain Now. Welcome to today's live stream. Greg, how are you? How are you doing?
Doing well, very well. He is becoming a regular, right?
He
You were just on Friday as well.
yes, a very really let's call it like it is. He's a rock and roll star across global business, and it's great to have him here with us. And we had a compelling conversation on Friday. Really enjoyed Enrique and Claudia and Kara's perspective on Ukraine and everything that's going on there due to the Russian invasion, how that's impacting global business, but also how it's impacting, frankly, humanity and how folks can help. So we're going to continue that theme here today as we've got two big guests joining us around 12:30, Dominic Love and David Adak, who is in Poland. We're going to hear their POV and perspectives firsthand, as well as Greg and Enrique, how our global ecosystem can jump in and help people in need. So Enrique, really quick, from Friday to today, what's going through your mind right now?
Well, I'm super happy to be here. I know that I'm crashing your boss party. Gotta say it honestly, but no, I'm always happy to share the microphone with both of you. I learned a lot, and something that I might not have mentioned on Friday is that what you're doing and just highlighting people like the ones that we're highlighting today is very important. So thank you to you, to the Supply Chain Now team. I know that you guys jumped into this Ukraine crisis very, very quickly, and you're just good people. So I'm happy to be with you, and I'm really happy to make sure that we can help people in the Ukraine right now because they're really struggling.
Well said, Enrique.
Yeah.
And, if there's any reason to drop what we're doing, change of plans, and change focus of our conversations and shows, it is what's going on in Ukraine. We're absolutely committed to helping drive action to help those in need. Greg, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, we've talked a lot about the impact on the supply chain, but also the supply chain's potential impact on this crisis because everything that's needed gets delivered. So, it's very circular, this problem, and obviously bigger than this industry, but wholly and intricately woven, right? So,
Agreed.
Absolutely.
Let's face it, this is really relevant no matter what your industry, your job, your role, your point of view is. This is the most important thing going on the planet right now.
Well said. So we're going to, this is the Supply Chain Buzz. We come at you every Monday at 12 noon, highly focused on the leading news from across global industry. We're going to touch on that, but really the bulk of our conversation and time today is going to focus on a couple of leaders that are really involved in the humanitarian support and relief headed to those in need. So stay tuned for as Dominique and David join us about 12:30 or so. Couple of program notes. Let's make sure folks, it's tough to go from Ukraine to any kind of program or award session or you name it. But the important bridge here is we're using our 2022 Supply Chain and Procurement Awards to attack modern slavery and human trafficking, which are some of the issues of our time. So nominations are open. You can learn more at supplychainprocurementawards.com. And then one other event we want to make sure is on folks' radar, Greg, the Global Upstate Conference on International Business and Foreign Affairs. These types of events and conversations and dialogue is how we prevent things from happening. We have a better common understanding of what we can do in times of crisis. So,
Right.
So March 29th through 31st, Supply Chain Now is proud to help make this happen. Greg White and Kevin L. Jackson, two of our team members here, will be appearing on panels. And Greg, what else would you add about this event coming up in a couple weeks?
Well, I mean, we're going to have foreign dignitaries and military generals and business professionals from, frankly, all over the world at this. And Kevin and I are going to be speaking on technology and its role in international affairs and international dealings of all kinds, frankly, and supply chain as well. So we've been invited by this group to join them, to share some of our thoughts, along with some academicians and other supply chain practitioners and technology practitioners, as to what our role can be in international business and governmental and geopolitical affairs.
So if we could, big thanks to Amanda, Chantel, and Catherine helping to make production happen behind the scenes. If we could drop the link to this conference, registration's open, and we want to encourage folks to get involved in the dialogue that Greg is describing. Okay, we're going to say hello to a few folks, and then we're going to tackle a couple of other goings on across global business, and then we're going to have our guests come in. Right around, is it the bottom? I never get top of the hour, bottom of the hour.
Bottom.
Okay.
Bottom.
Okay.
I go with where the hand is pointing on these things we used to have called clocks. They were often round.
Yes.
For those of you who've never seen one.
I feel official now. Bottom of the hour, Enrique. Bottom of the hour. Okay. Gary Smith tuned in. Our dear friend Gary Smith. Hey, Gary, I've enjoyed your perspective that I've seen published in a couple newsletters. Of course, you keynote left and right. And as Greg pointed out, it must be chilly up in Long Island. I wonder what the temp is up there, Greg.
I don't want to know. We had a little bit of a weather report as we gathered the team this morning before we kicked off today and found out it both hailed and snowed in Baltimore.
Really?
Right?
Goodness gracious.
Yeah, as if one isn't bad enough.
Enrique, we got to get some port reports from you and the Vector Global Logistics team. We'll save that for the bottom of the hour, perhaps. We'll see.
Perfect.
All right. It's very great to have you here. Josh is tuned in again. Josh, you're talking about becoming regulars. Really have enjoyed his contributions. And he says, sorry, Greg, I was hoping for a tie versus a loss for the Tottenham Spurs. Is that right?
Tottenham Hotspurs.
Hotspurs.
Yeah.
How about that?
Yeah.
Great to have you, Josh. Sushil, great to have you here today. Tuned in via LinkedIn once again. Let us know where you're tuned in from. Hey, Peter Bollet, all night and all day. Welcome in. And Peter, I saw on LinkedIn, I think it was, you and a group of colleagues were given like a $50,000 check to a nonprofit. Right. Drop that link. We got to celebrate stuff like that. Talk about action, deeds, not words. Drop that link in the comments. We want to lift that up and appreciate all that you do. Greg, there might be just a little bit of passion in our friend Peter Bollet, huh?
You'd never know it by his posts. Yeah, of course. I mean, and he's got a really broad base of knowledge. I think having worked for Air Canada and been in procurement, he's seen a lot of the world and a lot of how the world operates. So
yeah, agreed.
A lot of wisdom there.
A lot of wisdom. Invor, great to have you here today. Tuned in via LinkedIn. Thanks for joining us. Japneet, really have enjoyed your perspective, both via social and in the live streams. He says, good morning, Scott, Greg, and Enrique. It's really outrageous to see that in today's time and age, Putin's war, it's a great point there, Putin's war, has zero regard for global community efforts and humanitarian violations have increased. We're with you. And, as a great point was made Friday, and we can't say it enough, this isn't the Russian people's war, right? They are bravely coming out in scores and multitudes, and they're getting arrested. And I saw images over the weekend, Greg and Enrique, of a Russian band. It was playing a protest song, and they got the first few notes out, and then the police came in and beat them up and hauled them off. I mean, it's horrible.
Never to be seen again, likely.
Right. So
I mean, that takes guts. I think it's important for people to understand that when you protest against the government in countries like Russia, you are likely never to be seen again. So it takes an incredible amount of courage to, frankly, risk your life like that.
Agreed. And we hope to see it. That hopefully the Russian people will continue to find their voice and make their will known, which hopefully will help put an end to the atrocities and the invasion and the aggression and the suffering. But anyway, on a much lighter note, Peter dropped in the link that showed their recent project. So y'all check that out and lift it up. We need actions like that now more than ever before, for sure. Okay. So Enrique and Greg, we're going to kind of expedite our approach through some of these news stories so we can get into our conversation with Dominique and David. So it's going to be a bit of an express. So y'all feel free, if you want to make a comment, feel free to say, hey, time out, Scott. Let me add something here because I'm going to be moving kind of fast. Just prior to our team assembled today's buzz, late breaking news, Greg and Enrique, China, I don't have a graphic for this yet. China is shutting down plants in the manufacturing hubs of Shenzhen and Changchun, as COVID outbreaks have begun. So more to come on that really soon. All right. So adding here, we're going to talk about via TechCrunch, Kodiak Robotics and Seva Logistics announced new partnership. The trucking startup has been delivering freight autonomously between Dallas, Fort Worth, and Austin since November 2021. But they're adding routes between Kodiak and Seva are adding routes between Dallas, Fort Worth, and Oklahoma City. So just the latest step to a wider scale adoption across logistics for autonomous trucking. And get this, Greg and Enrique, I didn't know this. According to the article, most of the country's autonomous freight is being moved in the state of Texas, which kind of makes sense given all the highways and byways and just the sheer size. And Greg, we've seen that a lot of those roads up close and in person, huh?
We have on a trip to a Reuters event some years back, right?
That's right.
Feels like ages ago now, but yeah, and this, there are a number of companies doing this as well, testing this autonomous, and I think it's an important development. We've talked about this. There aren't enough drivers, and there likely never will be again. So this is going to be a critical part of moving freight on the ground.
Agreed, Enrique. Autonomous trucking continues to take more and more of a firmer route within industry. Any comment there?
Yeah, everyone that's in logistics actually waits anxiously for this to be a reality, right? Because there's not enough equipment in the market. There's not enough truck drivers in the market. So the more we see about this technological advance, the happier we are. Hopefully, we'll get there soon enough. But
agreed. Moving right along, diesel.
Speaking of trucking, yeah.
Speaking of trucking, no kidding. Moving right along, but more expensively. Goodness gracious. Let's talk diesel. As reported by Transport Topics, the price per gallon for diesel fuel is setting records. The first week of March, and this was a couple weeks ago, right? First week of March, it rose an unprecedented almost 75 cents per gallon to a new all-time record of $4.80, about 85 cents per gallon. And Greg, Enrique, that's just the national average, right? In California, at least at the time of this article was written, it was almost $6 a gallon. Greg, your quick response.
Well, it had increased 25% even before that. So, and a lot of this is on the heels of the Russian invasion of Ukraine, and now the cessation of many companies doing business with them for fossil fuels. So, it's tragic, but it's to be expected, and it will continue as long as this conflict continues.
Agreed. We're going to skip over the Girl Scout cookie supply chain issues. That was a lighter note, but we're going to skip past that.
Suffice it to say, there are issues, just like with everything else, and Thin Mints may be hard to come by.
Oh man, I wish that was at the top of our list of the pains and challenges in global business. Right?
That seems like a relief we could use, doesn't it? At least to get our Girl Scout cookies.
Well said, Greg. But what I want to get you to comment on this as we move into our guest discussion with Dominique and David here in just a moment. Sure. I loved, Enrique, I'm not sure if you saw this as well, but Greg publishes wonderful supply chain commentary every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And this, Greg, your take on this article that could be found in Supply Chain Dive really attracted a lot of comments, a lot of eyeballs, and it's just more of the supply chain gospel by preacher Greg White. So, Greg, give us a snip. We can't do it justice, but give us kind of the thrust of your point you were making here.
Yeah, well, the shortest way to say it is this author was not just encouraging, but actually chiding procurement professionals to lead more by caring more and changing things, changing the way they do business, who they do business with, the type of companies, and and the kind of initiatives that they can undertake in their job. And the point that I made relative to this article was that it's not that they don't care, it's that they're not empowered by their companies who don't care. One of the statements was, they don't pay me to care. That's what one of the people interviewed in the article said. And that's an absolute truth. And in fact, it's also a truth that they are paid, in some cases, compensated for things that are the opposite of caring. And that the companies really need to take the fore in enabling and empowering their employees, their ambassadors to the world, to do things that are good for humankind, that are good for the environment, good, all of those things. So that was the point of this article, is if we want people to lead with caring,
right,
or to be caring in their job, it has to be a safe environment to be able to do so. They have to be able to make suggestions, maybe even challenge and change things within their companies. But the companies are what have to change, because in fact, one of the people who commented on the article said she nearly lost her job getting threatening letters from leadership, and called into a meeting to be shamed because I asked people in my office to help families in need after a devastating fire in California. So it's the opposite, that these companies are often even opposite what they're signaling, their caring and their initiatives within the marketplace. Again, as Scott, as you say, deeds not words. These companies have to, if they want their people to, or if other professionals want people to be able to act, they have to be safe to do so.
Agreed.
Well, and
I want to go ahead. I want to give you a chance to comment, but before I do, I think right along these lines that Greg's talking about, I want to bring in Peter Bolay's comments, because talking about a culture that enables folks to care and to take action, it's Enrique, the culture you've implemented at Vector Global Logistics, right? Which is why we've got our guests here today. They're doing big things to help folks in need. So Peter says he salutes all three for raising awareness and funding for special causes. Enrique Alvarez with Vector has contributed significantly to the world with their commitments across many, many channels. So Enrique, now with that said, your comment?
Well, thank you very much, Peter. And I don't know if we're doing big things, but we're certainly trying to help in any way we can, even small or big. It doesn't really matter as long as you're trying. And to Greg's point, I think companies that don't have caring or purpose in their core and as part of their business strategy, they're simply not going to be around for long, right? So it's like, it's one of those things that you can say, hey, companies, you should do this, you should empower your employees. Or the alternative is like, keep doing what you're doing. You're not going to be around soon enough, because the next generation is going to want to work with companies that really care about people. They're really going to work with companies that really believe in something and stand for something. And so again, I'm not too concerned about this. If companies don't want to do it, then it's fine. We won't see you around in 10 years.
Well said.
Amen. Funny, I saw an article. I saw an article that Balaji, one of the partners at Kubera, the venture capital firm I work with, sent, that said, it's not that people don't want to work; they don't want to work for you. Right. So those companies that Enrique is talking about, that is exactly the problem.
It is. Completely agree. Both of y'all, well said. And I love how y'all throw the gauntlet down, and it's not a singular action. It's who you are, right? It's who you are every day. So heads up to the production team. We got through all the news faster than even I expected. So we're going to be bringing our guests in here in just a moment. Right. So Dominique and David will be joining us in just a second. Want to share a couple quick comments. It is so neat to have Kavan back with us. Kavan is doing a lot of great, beyond what he's doing in the industry, doing a lot of writing and blogging about what's going on and what folks need to do. So Kavan, great to have you here as always. Jason, great to have you. He's in DC. He's a supply chain pro. He says Putin is begging for our SEAL team just as much as they're waiting on that call. Strong
Amen
words
for that.
From Jason T. Hopkins. Great to see you here, Jason. And then Jacob, appreciate the feedback. Thanks to Supply Chain Now for the consistency. Hey, you give from what you have, and the spotlight we've been building here, we want to put that on the right spots, in the right places, and the right people and topics as often as we can. So Jacob, great to have you here tuned in. Okay, with all of that said, Greg, Enrique, I'm gonna go ahead and welcome in our two guests here today. Really, if this is any kind of conversation like we had on Friday, I hope that it stirs people to take action and contribute whatever resources they can towards the good fight to help the folks in Ukraine and Europe. So with that said, I want to bring in Dominique Love, CEO of the Nourish Group, and David Adak, president of EO Poland. Hey, Dominique, David, good afternoon. How are you both doing?
Hi, Scott. Hi, Greg. Thanks you for having us here.
Yeah, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, I really appreciate your flexibility in light of everything that's going on. And I want to put, if I can, I want to put Enrique on the spot for a second, because Enrique, I really appreciate, as we're trying to get coverage of what these leaders and the people and what's going on and how folks can help. Enrique has been a constant stream of, hey, we got to talk to this person, that person, this person, that person. Here's what they're doing. So Enrique, give us a little bit of background of how you came to know and came to uncover what Dominique and David are both doing. Uh-oh. We might have Enrique. Are you still with us? Okay. We'll shift gears for a second. And production team, hey, these things happen. Live streams, these things happen. If our production team can text Enrique or private chat him and just make sure he's still connected. But Dominique and David, let's start with you both here. So just to level set, before we get into your observations and reaction and what you're doing and how folks can help, let's just tell, if you would, our ecosystem here and our community here about yourself. And Dominique, let's start with you.
Hey, so I'm a serial entrepreneur. I'm getting ready to launch my next startup, which is a culinary-centric community outside of Atlanta, coming very soon. I'm a part of an organization called Entrepreneurs Organization. It's a global group that represents 15,000 entrepreneurs and also has about 200 chapters around the globe. And through that organization, I got connected to EO Poland and David in particular, because he's the president of the organization. What I was seeing that they were doing was really amazing. Mm-hmm. And so decided to roll up my sleeves in a very simple way. And then, whenever you raise your hand, how you sometimes just get pulled right on in there. And that's exactly what happened. So since then, and actually it was a supply chain, a shipping issue that caused David to guilt me into doing more. I had about 100 or so mattresses shipped to his apartment in
100 mattresses, Dominique?
To an apartment?
Into his apartment, roll up mattresses.
Wow.
And so he guilted me into leading some fundraising efforts. And by chance, I have a background in philanthropy. So it's worked out really well. And he'll talk about it. But I will tell you, from an American side of view, you see it on TV, you get it. You understand it pulls at your heartstrings, but it's not until you're talking to someone, when you're really interacting with someone across the table who's there on the front lines, that you truly get it. And as I mentioned to you all before, there are stories that came through and experiences that David has shared with me that will literally drop you to your knees. And it is our duty. We can't be there for a number of reasons, politically and war and all of those things. But we, especially as Americans, need to roll up our sleeves and do what we do best, get their back, and let's help them however we can.
Amen, Dominique. Amen to every single syllable you just shared. And I will also add, gosh, be with our leaders. They've got a very difficult job walking this fine line between addressing the suffering and the aggression and preventing World War III from taking place. So may cooler heads prevail, but put an end to the atrocities. So Dominique, what a wonderful segue into David. And Enrique, really quick, are you with us, Enrique?
I think I am with you, and I actually dropped at the very exact time so Dominique could make the introduction and not me, because she's so much more eloquent.
Very good. So put the attention on her. Good job, E.
All right. Well, you're definitely with us in spirit and kindred spirits for sure. We'll hope to keep you with us from a technology standpoint as well. But David, thank you for joining us, and please, following up Dominique's intro there, tell us about yourself and your why. Why are we doing this, and what the need is?
Sure. So like Dominique said, we know each other because we are part of the Entrepreneurs Organization. So I happen to be an entrepreneur as well. I have a software company in Poland. But yeah, that obviously doesn't matter now. So 3 years back, we launched EO chapter. So there are like 50 people, 50 entrepreneurs, and it just happened to us that we are the closest to what's going on in Ukraine. So yeah, we just, like in our companies, we just had to, we see, we do, we act, we need to, we realize that we have to do something, especially that, since we are close to Ukraine and a lot of our members are doing business there, or actually been doing business there, because obviously now everything is gone. We just start doing and acting, and then that's how I met so many amazing people which are supporting the cause, like Dominic, but also like hundreds of other people. And frankly speaking, I mean, I have like 200 plus unread messages. I'm just not capable of reading all the questions or the support I just got. And yeah, and talking about what's needed, and maybe let's start with some facts for, the United Nations just today morning, they said that there's like 2.7 million or refugees which went out of the Ukraine. Out of that, 1.7 came to Poland. So it's, if we're going to keep up this pace, we're going to have like 10% more population in Poland within like 2 weeks. Yeah. There is a lot of rumors about Kyiv evacuation, which might happen. Kyiv is another 3 million city, so if that's going to happen, another 1.5 million going to hit us in 2 or maybe 3 days, right? So obviously we what's really great about the organization we are part is that as entrepreneurs you have to be rational, you have to act, you have to work, right? So there's no time for any political movement or agreement, disagreement, even blaming. We just do act. So I wanted to share with you a couple of stories. So we have this this so-called,
hey David, really quick, can I interrupt for just a second?
Sure.
Before we get again, thanks for carving time out. Just on the intro, Greg and Enrique. And Greg, I want to get your response first. As David started to talk about his software company, he said, but that doesn't matter now. That does not matter now. Greg, your reaction before we get into some of these stories.
Well, I mean, I think it does matter, right? But I understand where David is coming from, because he still has to have a livelihood, but promoting it doesn't, right? The business matters, but promoting it doesn't. So I think that's big. David, of you and everything that you're doing. In the last statement you just made, there's no time for agreement or disagreement or a political action standings or whatever. You just have to act, and I think that's a really good perspective.
Agreed. And Enrique, your quick reaction before we hear some of the stories from David.
I've been part of an EO for a couple of years now, but I've never felt like so proud. And I actually have seen the actual impact and change that this organization can have on people. And I think Dominic included me to the WhatsApp group that initially people in Europe and in Poland in particular had. And some of the stories, and I'm sure David's going to share some of them, but what David's doing and everyone else in Europe is amazing. And we just have to, I just feel kind of humbled to be part of this organization, and
agreed.
I'll try to do as much as I can. So the stories are heartbreaking for sure.
Really quick, Peter is pointing out Air Canada flying products to support Ukraine, and the link there. Japneet is kind of supporting what David says. Poland has seen the most number of boarding crossings from Ukraine. And Donna, welcome in from Houston via LinkedIn. Thanks for joining us here today. And hello, Dr. Rhonda, by the way. Great to have you here as well. All right, so David and Dominique. David, let's stick with you. Share some of these stories that kind of maybe help illustrate what's going on and why we must take action.
Sure. I mean, to be really honest with you, I don't know how deep I can go, but because it's really heartbreaking. But let me just give you a few stories from yesterday or 2 days back, actually. So we have this this WhatsApp group. We call it kind of a crisis management group, and there are people from different NGOs, organizations, EO, YPO, whatever, and we try to react because obviously those are like entrepreneurs or some even politicians, so they have any means to do it. And there was this message which was really heartbreaking a few days back, which was basically stating, Greg, you mentioned there was snowing in Baltimore, right? And the message was hey, we need tents and something to heat people up because these people are waiting, queuing and are walking from the Ukraine to the border towards the border for 3 days long, and it's like 21 Fahrenheit there, like it's minus 6 degrees Celsius, and there's children died there. I mean, like dozens of children simply died. So I can't even imagine, I have a daughter, and I can't even imagine walking for 3 days long without, like, with whatever you can bring with you, like 2 bags at most, or 1 bag, and your children in your hand, and you have to walk because there is no other way, and it's totally blocked. And then you have, some of them, they are being shot because the Russians, they claim to have the corridors open, but they actually don't. So I can't imagine that. I've seen people on the train stations, and you see those children. They are making up like a beds from the bags or backpacks they have with them, and they just make a place for the children, and they sleep on a chair, whatever it's there. And obviously we have a lot of pictures, and I don't want to share that because we also need to take care of those people's dignity, and this is also one of the important things to mention, is that this what's happening there, this crisis in every area is like physical health, mental health, but also the dignity. That happened to a friend of mine. She accepted refugees, and when you think refugee, you might you have some picture in your mind. I had before I had like the Syrian refugees or something like that, so you see like poor people, but that's not true. I mean, that's not true anymore. So the lady which happened to enter her flat, the first thing she said, I'm sorry, I don't know how to behave because this is first time happened to me in my life, and I had like a decent life there, and I have nothing now, right? And I need to beg you, I need to ask you. So you don't even know how to act, how to react on that, right? You want to be supportive, but you also feel that if you got too much support, it's also not going to work, because the people are going to lose their dignity. And so it's I can't even describe that. It's just really. So the other thing is, like, we do offer a lot of support, and a friend of mine told me, we send them like we are working in different areas. So we are sending mattresses. We are working also to give them roof under their head. So we are building shelters. We are obviously bringing food, but we also try to take care about the youngsters, the children. We're giving them some toys, whatever. And then I heard this the friend of mine saying me, like, your support is incredible, but you have to forgive me, as I cannot smile back. It's like even this normal reaction. This is not there. This is the scale.
So David, let me get Dominique and Greg to respond to what you've shared already. Dominique, it sounds like the roll-up mattresses that you sent are going maybe to kids and others that need need some sort of comfort to get some.
Yeah, and Scott, I mean, even now I've been living this at a distance, and I'm still choked up with each story. I was on that chat group. And on that chat group, there's a CEO of a fashion company out of Paris. And she has operations in the US as well. And some of us probably wear some of her leisure clothes. And she wrote on the chat, "Help me. My family is coming across the border. If you can get them to Prague, I can get them. I just need help." And said where they were crossing. 2 minutes, not 2 hours, 2 minutes. A response from a member of EO said, "I'm on my way." And that single thing said, this is not that hard. We can do more. And so that's when I just said, I kept hearing them talking about lodging. And because I have a background in philanthropy and even disaster relief, that I just immediately went on to Amazon Poland. It was the only thing I knew to do, and ordered a bunch of I put together kits, is what I call them, lodging kits. So it was a mattress, a blanket, a sheet, a washcloth, a towel, washcloth of towel, and a pillow. And then I figured out what the cost was, and I sent a text out to 30 girlfriends and said, "This stuff is real. It's horrific. Can't we all just at least buy one kit?" And I immediately got a response. That single text has resulted in, we just crossed $46,000. And so it's the power of people wanting to support. So yes, we did a lot of that. The needs have changed a little bit more now. And now we're focused on something more specific that we can get into in a second. But But the overall thing here is that you've got a group of people who have dropped everything in Poland. Can you imagine your neighborhood doubling in size in less than a week? Warsaw has a population, inside Warsaw has a population of 1.8 million. Last week, there were 1.3 million refugees who had come in. You've almost doubled the size of a city. What do you do? And the only thing you can do is act, and that's exactly what these guys have been doing. So us, rallying has been easy.
Greg, pulling you in here. I think you and Dominique and David share a lot in common. Greg, you're involved in a lot of different philanthropic, I can never say that word, initiatives. Greg, what's some of your response here as you hear David and Dominique and Enrique speak about some of the things they're involved in?
Yeah, you're going to probably find this hard to believe, but I don't really know what to say. Honestly, it's, you don't think of it in the perspective that David has just told us, right? That this isn't destitute people necessarily. This is just people being displaced in whatever their situation was. It no longer is, and probably in some cases will never be again. And they don't even know how to be in the role that they've got today, which is refugee, right? So yeah, I don't know. I'm processing.
Yeah, I'm with you.
If I may jump in on this one, what you just said, this is also the other dimension of the whole situation. Is like, what we are trying to do as an EO, we have a network, so we try to get those people shelter in other countries like Germany, like Netherlands, like France. And what was happening in the very beginning was that the buses were coming with like a sheet of paper saying Berlin or Amsterdam, whatever. And what the refugee would do, they would skip these buses because obviously they want to stay as close to the border as possible because they are hoping they're going to come back soon. But you can see this changing with every single hour, that people are really losing hope. There is nothing to coming back. If you look at the Kharkov, if you look at the Kyiv, if you see your dome house being bombarded and collapsed, and you have nothing to come back, so you need to really find yourself in this new reality. This is that's tough.
Okay.
I think we also have to just add one thing. When you're talking about refugees, 95% of the refugees are women and children. The men are staying back to fight. They are taking up arms. And so not only are you getting exhausted, traumatized people crossing the border, you're getting people who have just said goodbye to their husbands, their fathers, their uncles, their brothers, their sons, and they may never see them again. And of course, they want to stay as close to that border as possible. Of course, they want to have a chance to get back and reunite with those people. Can you possibly imagine looking at your wife or your partner or, sister, anyone, and saying goodbye? I may not see you again. I mean, it's pretty devastating. And so not only are you're not just receiving people, you're receiving a lot.
Right.
This dynamic is changed. So I just wanted to add this one, that you can feel like this dynamic is changing. So all the other or the previous refugees crisis we had, like the whatever there was in past, usually you have first men coming here, finding work, building the house, and bringing the family. But now, if you think about the long term, you have like a woman with 2 kids, and you have, like Dominic said, we've been there in this shelter. There's this biggest shelter next to Warsaw, 25,000 places. They are scaling this up to 60,000 right now. 60,000 is a small city, and we told them, hey, with this living kits, like Dominic said, we're gonna prepare something called NFI, non-food items. So we're gonna have one for men, women, and children. They told us, like, don't bother with men. 65 is children, 30 is women, and then like just a few men. But if you think the long term, these women, they can't work here, right? They have kids to take care of, right? And they won't be able to, even if they could work, they won't be able because they have to take care of their children. I mean, this in the long term, this
devastating.
This
So really quick, I want to take a couple quick comments from folks in the skyboxes. Ikacheku, great to have you once again here today from Canada via LinkedIn. Delilah asked a great question, and we're going to get to this because we want to help folks that are listening, whether they're listening to the live version or the replay version. We want to make sure we give them vetted resources where they can jump into the fight. And Delilah asked, hey, where can we go find organizations that we can feel safe to help and to donate to. So we'll get back to that, Delilah. Enrique dropped a lot on Friday, including a charity navigator type of resource, which helps vet. Because unfortunately, there's a lot of scammers that are very opportunistic, and that's the worst side of humanity, to take away resources from where it should go. But Delilah, great question. Jason says, a wise man once said, what's understood doesn't need to be explained. That's an excellent point. We're all reacting to what we're hearing from Dominique and David and Enrique even. And it doesn't need to be further explained, right? Japneet makes a great point. The social and mental upheaval, which David and Dominic were just talking to, is unaccounted for and will emerge as more stories roll in. Dr. Rhonda says it's mind-blowing to see us human beings continue to struggle because of the suffering caused by others. Heartbreaking to see the evil, but in a breath, faith comes into play as we see the best of humanity in offering loving, kind assistance and support. Well said. Okay. Enrique, I'm hoping, I think you changed networks. So I think we've got a stronger grip on you now. Fresh on the heels of our Friday conversation, as Gartner was offering its research and impact on kind of what this meant for global business. This obviously is more on the humanities side. Let's go ahead and speak to Delilah's question maybe a bit before we circle back and get more observations from David and Dominique. What are a couple of organizations that you would recommend to our listeners, Enrique?
Yeah, well, there's multiple, and I'm sure that you have the links, and you'll be dropping them on the comment section soon enough. But CARE, I mean, for me, the main thing would be just to go to that website that ranks the different charities and make sure that you donate to a charity that's already established and well functioning and has presence in Europe. And so if you really want to help this particular crisis, as opposed to any other issues out there, so there's many options, but I would definitely do some research, work with established organizations that know how to deploy assets quickly and effectively. And the other thing that I would like to add is we're all shaken by what's going on, and we're all sad, and we're all kind of angry about this. But this is going to last for a lot longer than most people understand. So we have to keep giving, right? It's not something that you'll go and do now and send some money or do this. Women and children and everyone in Ukraine and in the rest of Europe too, because Poland's going to need help. Bulgaria's, I mean, David said it very, very eloquently, like their population is going to grow 10% in 2 weeks. It's not sustainable for any country. So we have to continue helping. So I would recommend, one, to do research, two, to make sure that you do something, even if it's little, even if it's $5, even if it's like a mattress here or there, whatever you can, but definitely make sure that you help. And then the other thing is, if possible, try to plan on helping for the longer term, right? Just try to help for at least the next year or two, because it's just going to keep going, unfortunately.
And Scott, I'd love to be able to jump in here, and I'm going to pull up my old philanthropy hat. So I managed corporate giving at Coca-Cola for several years, and I also started an agency that helped corporations, nonprofits do more in the company, and worked with major corporations around the globe. After doing a lot of disaster work, especially around Hurricane Katrina, what I learned was that you oftentimes needed to sit back because there's initial wave of responses. I tended to support, and my number one was the Salvation Army. They're there on the front lines. They're very discreet, and they tend to stay a lot longer when most NGOs leave. The second is Doctors Without Borders, because they have they are excellent at managing their resources. They set what they need to raise. If they go over that, they stop their campaigns. They don't keep taking money that goes into their operations if they can no longer use the money in that particular area. So I think those two things are really important. What lesson I've learned through this issue, this crisis, if you will, is that giving is, right now, it needs to get out there. The rapid speed of the needs are so critical, and that's one of the reasons why, teaming up with EO, I trust EO. I'm a member of EO. You're not going to get a tax deduction making a contribution to EO Poland. but it's not about that. You're going to see that supplies are getting directly in the hands of folks. And before coming on, as I was kind of thinking, trying to give myself some notes, I have this funny pad. I actually use it for my husband to tell him what he needs to do for the day. But I don't know if you can see it. Excuse the language at the top. But I made 3 different notes to myself. There are 3 ways that we can use help, and 2 of them are very specific to supply chain. So we're doing those lodging kits. Now we've switched gears. The government's got cots coming in. They've got some other supplies. The biggest thing are what we're calling living kits. So it is, you cross the border, you end up in a shelter, you walk in and you get a kit that's going to have soap, shampoo, a toothbrush, toothpaste. It's going to have diapers for children, personal hygiene products, water, and food rations. So those things we figured out, we can do a kit for $25. And so that's easy. We can all, skip your Starbucks, skip a lunch out, do something. I mean, 25 can be a lot to a lot of people, but it also can really change the lives of some of these refugees. The second thing are supplies. They are needing massive supplies. David and I have been going through like a sourcing group in Poland, purchasing 10,000. You bought, how many toothbrushes did you buy last night, David? 10,000?
10,000, exactly.
Yeah.
Wow, 10,000 toothbrushes.
And 17,000 of the shampoos, which we're going to bring to the shelter tomorrow.
Yeah, so 17,000 shampoos. And so, we need those supplies. So in this network, if you have access to supplies that you can get to these groups, they're needed desperately.
If I may jump in for a second, there is this also, talking about the organization, there's also this Polish Humanitarian Action. And what I'm talking about them, why I'm talking about them is because they're helping Ukraine directly there, and they are just placing the order, the commercial order. They want to buy food, which is needed there, obviously. By the way, Kyiv is spending $1 million for, to keep the city sustained. So you can imagine how much is needed. But basically, what I wanted to say is that Polish Humanitarian Action, this NGO, plays the order. And all biggest, grocery shops, like, kind of a Walmart you have there, and we have a Tesco, Biedronka, whatever. The 5 biggest shop, they can't fulfill the order. This is how much is needed right now, like for this week. So it's pretty okay, but I think we're gonna be short of resources soon. And obviously, in the long term, they will figure out. But for now, we might be short very soon.
So really quick, and I want to make sure we get any link that we can get from you, Dominique and David. But really quick, speaking of longer term, there was a quick exchange. Jose, hope this finds you well, Jose. I understand the immediate need to support because it is fresh, but what is a long-term support strategy? It's a fair question. And Peter Bollet answers, do not think they're at the long-term solution thought process at this point right now. Actions required. A long-term strategy will certainly need to be developed, but there is time for that down the road. This LinkedIn user, this might be Korai. I'm not sure. Amanda, if you could let me know. I have so many questions here, she says. I believe it is better to donate money because nonprofits can buy whatever they need. But are there any shortages forecasted? David just spoke to that a little bit, but a great question there. Greg, you haven't jumped in a while. I'm sure. I know that we're all taking it in, right? It's a shock to the system. It's been a shock to the system to see some of the images. Enrique, we spoke on Friday about the democratization impact of journalism, which is a great thing because a lot of the imagery is coming out, hopefully causing people to act, including government leaders that can actually do something about it. But Greg, where does your mind go when we talk about when you hear some of the issues and solutions and resources that Dominique and David and Enrique are speaking to?
Yeah. So one thing I want to address is, like a group that you are in. If you're not in EO, if there's a group of people that you hang out with and you all want to do something, that is a trusted group. If you don't, as Dominique said, if you don't feel compelled to do it in a way that gives you a tax deduction, right? If you just want to do something, keep that circle very tight with people you know and people you trust. Maybe your Rotary Club or whatever, Chamber of Commerce friends or whatever you want to do, people in the same industry. But again, to Enrique's point, use Charity Navigator, use care.org, care.org. And there are a couple of others that can help you establish who those groups are that are doing things short term and longer term. And to the longer term question, once a longer term, let's say longer term, when the conflict is over, I feel really wimpy calling it a conflict. By the way, this is a war. It's an aggression. It's an illegal act by an illegal leader. But we're not going to get into politics. But I think once that is over, then the geopolitical pressure comes off. Nobody's worried about getting nuked once the war is over in Ukraine. China will miraculously cure COVID and this manufacturing halt that they literally just announced, because everyone is cutting off ties, and Russia is cutting off ties with or cutting off trade with other countries. And once that political pressure is off, then the governments will be able to, they're able to now, but they'll feel comfortable that they're not risking their political future by contributing to the long-term recovery and hopefully repatriation strategy of Ukraine.
The other, Scott,
Enrique,
the
go
other
ahead.
thing that I think we can do is you can help in kind and money and donations, but you can also help with contacts, right? We live in a very communicated and connected society. We have LinkedIn, Twitter, and we're doing this over LinkedIn right now. So I think something that David mentioned that is needed is, if you have a contact, if you have a good friend that's a CEO or CFO or wherever he is or whatever he works, if he's working for a retail chain company or a toothbrush manufacturing company or a Coca-Cola, like diapers, everything's needed, right?
Right.
There's no such thing as a list of things that are needed, because everything is needed. People left their homes with nothing but the things that they could carry, plus they had to carry a couple kids in the way. So if you know people, just try to connect them, try to make sure that we're connected, and just use whatever you're using, WhatsApp, WeChat, whatever. Just make sure that you're introducing people to your friends, like pretty much what I'm doing now with Dominique and you guys. So I think that helps a lot.
I love this message here from Dr. Rhonda. I love that message. Little acts add up and then create monumental impacts for the long haul. So what she's saying, what Dominique is saying, hey, whatever it takes, whatever you can afford to give to a vetted organization is highly, highly appreciated. And Japneet, yeah, you're right. It is a naked aggression. It's an invasion. It's and that doesn't even do it justice in terms of the atrocities we're seeing out of Ukraine and the region. Okay, Dominic, you were about to say something. And we also will make sure.
Yeah, I'm just gonna I'll just wrap up on our side. I have those three things. We need these living kits that we're saying they're $25. You want to know if the money goes to refugees? I can tell you right now, money has been being Venmoed to me by my friends when I started this Just My Friend part. I think I might be on some sort of tracking alert now, because I'm buying everything I can from these supply groups in Poland. David, I put the money straight into an account and it goes straight to buying things. So I know every dollar is going toward this cause. No one on the EO side is taking a salary for this. So we need the kits bought. We need supplies. So in-kind donations. Transportation and fuel are really big. We do have groups that have been all throughout Europe who have just said, hey, someone's given me a truck. I'm coming down, it's filled to the brim, and we're going to dump off supplies, and then we'll pick up and bring people back. So that's it's pretty intense. So transportation and fuel have been the biggest challenges right now on that end. So anyone who can volunteer and help us figure that piece out, that would be really helpful. In terms of where to give, I think we gave you a link to the EO Poland website. I think it's ukraine.eopoland.org. And I think, Debbie just put it in the chat if you want to repost it. And the team on the ground in EO Poland they're working around the clocks. They have walked away from every one of their businesses, and they are working around the clock. So it's pretty impressive.
Unbelievable. We're here. It's 2022 and we're facing what we're facing. Some of the imagery that we were talking about earlier, Enrique, we commented on Friday. It feels like it's like from straight out of like the 30s or the 40s, and it's last week. It's unbelievable. Let's make sure. Okay, well, great. We did it. Ukraine.eopoland.org. Folks, you've got leaders that with means and have their finger on the pulse of how to marshal resources to the folks that need it. You've heard it here from David and Dominique and Enrique. Ukraine.eopoland.org. If you can give anything, Greg, what's your challenge that I've stolen and repackaged a number of different ways? I never get it right, but what's your challenge to our ecosystem here?
Give simple, give small, give now.
It's just that simple.
I think there are lots of ways to accomplish this. It's funny. My daughter just had a child, and I was thinking about her Amazon registry. You could almost put what needs to be bought on a baby or wedding. Maybe they have charity registries on Amazon, so people could just go in and buy as many of those kits or whatever as they want.
That's exactly how my campaign started. Was I started to try and do a registry. I found it a little bit more complicated, so that's when I just said, "Here's what you're going to get. Hey, girlfriends, hey, friends, send me some money.
Yeah.
Here's what you're going to get." And then I just send them pictures and results of what I had purchased. So we have gotten a little bit more sophisticated and organized since then. But money is, as one person commented, money is so necessary.
Hey, Dominique, if I can, for my clarification, if folks go to the Ukraine.eo, this address here, can they donate towards the campaign that you and other EO leaders that you're speaking to?
Yes, that is a general donation site for EO Poland, but it's all going into the same fund, and we're deploying it rapidly. Like I said, 15,000 toothbrushes got ordered in the wee hours of the morning, and 17,000 bottles of shampoo. That's just scratching the surface of what they're ordering.
Greg, Enrique, David, I don't know about you, but when Dominique puts a list together like the one she showed, I got a hunch that everything gets done on that list.
Or else.
Or else.
Or else your name is going to be here. You don't want me to be here, do you?
You don't want your name on the list.
Oh, gosh.
I'll hang it on the front door for all the neighbors to see.
So, David, thank you so much for that, Dominique.
If I may just say one last
Please.
thing, I mean, I really appreciate the effort, and to be honest, this the support we got from US and Canada, this is really amazing. By the time I was buying these brushes and going them to the shelter and so on, because obviously we also do we need a little micromanagement here, unfortunately, because everything is out of the stock, so we need to try here and there. So I'm just going here and there, and then in the meantime, Dominique messaged me, "Hey, we got another 30,000 bags." So I really, like Dominique said before, we used to build the shelters. Now we are working in the other way. But I want to say really that this is you guys, all people who donate, who are actually building this shelter. We are just organizing that, and a huge shout out for everyone who is donating, because obviously you can't fly in here to be, and I know you would do that if you could, but really this amount of support, I've never seen something like that in my life.
David, if I can, I appreciate all of that, but what the country and the people of Poland are doing, I mean, the noble mission that they're leading, and just you can see the passion and the purpose and the impact. Man, we're with you. There's some constraints here. We're going to get this thing figured out. But, man, it takes leaders like you and your fellow countrymen and women that taking the brave actions to absorb all these folks that we've been speaking to for the last hour that need so much. I just can't. We're just blown away with what you're doing. So we want to help as much as we can. Enrique and Greg, before we let our two incredible guests go, David and Dominique. Greg, let's start with you. Your last, anything you want to share with David and Dominique?
Yeah, just thank you for that perspective. I don't think any of us probably still don't get everything that's going on, but David, you helped us paint a mental picture, thankfully only mental, but a mental picture of what's going on there and the impact that it's having on people's lives, and not just the people leaving Ukraine. I mean, this is a strain on the people of Poland and Romania and Moldova who are taking in these refugees as well. And Romania and Moldova, not nearly as strong and prominent countries as Poland. So there's real hardship for the people who are providing the services that Dominique and David are providing as well. So it's an exceptional effort by everyone there, and I'm hopeful that this can help people connect and get enable them to contribute in some way.
Agreed. While we get hopefully a ceasefire in place, hopefully it's right around the corner. I'll leave that to the geopolitical experts out there. But Enrique, your final thoughts to David and Dominique.
Yeah, I'm just inspired by what they're doing. They're business owners like I am, and just seeing what you're doing, David, and just reading some of the chats and everything that you're doing. It's very inspiring. So I hope that other leaders out there listening to this podcast and seeing what you and everyone else, because I know that it's not only you. There's, I think the maximum members you can have on WhatsApp is what, 250, and that was blown past, and we had to move to a different platform because there weren't just enough seats available for people trying to jump in and help. So I'm just inspired by what you're doing, and I hope other people get inspired. And I think that it's very important for the supply chain and logistics community to come together. Supply chain plays a big role in everything that's going on, from shipping to delivering to manufacturing the toothbrushes. And so I think we are in a very, very privileged situation here as supply chain professionals, because we really can make a big impact. So I hope that every single logistics company out there, steamship lines included, trucking companies, airplanes, anything, just jump in, right? We need to move things around. And so we always talk a big game in supply chain, and we always kind of brag about how the world revolves around what we do and how we move things. So this is the time to prove it. Let's do it.
Agreed. Supply chain pulled the world through the pandemic, and despite what we're seeing in China, we feel closer than ever before to true post-pandemic. And I've got faith that our global supply chain workforce and leaders that step up, like we're seeing here with David and Dominique, are going to do the same thing. So a Godspeed to that. Okay. An hour never does stuff like this justice. I wish, and of course, just talking about it also doesn't do it justice. We've got to take action. That's what it's all about. Deeds, not words. I want to thank our two guests here today, David Adak, president of EO Poland, and Dominic Love, CEO of the Nurse Group, also with EO Atlanta. This EO group, man, what a powerful group. We're going to have to talk a lot more, Dominic and David, about that. So thank you, first off, for what you do, for your little bit of time here today, but most important, what you're doing. And we're going to try to support you as best we can. So thanks so much to you both.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Have a good one.
All righty.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Okay. Greg, Enrique, no words. There's never... Greg, your response, you hit the nail on the head, because
I have to run though. I have a call at 1. So
well,
I love you guys. No, you should let's talk about EO, because I think that could be a good organization for you to participate in, Scott.
All right. Well, hey, Enrique, we're still live. We love you too. And we'll see you momentarily. Okay.
Well, what I said stands, right? I think
it
is a great organization for anyone and everyone that's actually listening to us out there. I
think they ought to take a look at EO and what it's about, right? I know it's been beneficial to you.
If you're an entrepreneur, I think it's a good organization to join. But thank you so much. I apologize. I thought that we were already.
That's okay. Go to your meeting. Sorry, we kept.
I have to leave. Thank you so much, though.
Thank you, Enrique. All right, Greg.
He didn't even get swooshed out because he had to leave.
Hey, come on. Enrique doesn't wait for no stinking swoosh.
No. He was at his desk too when we started today.
Every so often, I think we shared this on Friday, every so often you're reminded about exactly why you do what you do. And moments and conversations like this one hit that at its core, at least for me. But I want to give you the opportunity for your final challenge to anyone that might be listening to this, anyone that might be listening to the replay, anyone that might have hit something we said on social, whatever. Greg, what would you tell them to do?
Let me start with a quick qualification. I'm going to expose my weakness here because I am angry at this entire situation. And it's unnecessary, it's unjust, and it's unbelievable. Pick another un. There are lots of uns, but in as much as it is here, it behooves all of us to do whatever we can to help those who are suffering, to help in any way you can to bring this to an end, or whatever is within your power. Do something, even if you do it wrong,
Right.
right? But there's a lot that people need here. They need basics. They need transportation out of their country. They need transportation to other countries. They need care. They're going to need lots of care going forward, but they need care and understanding and support. So I really appreciate what all of the neighboring countries, all of the good neighboring countries are doing.
Yes.
Not Russia and Belarus, but Poland and Moldova and Romania, all doing this not because they can necessarily, but because they have to.
Right.
And it's really powerful to see an organization like this. And again, I'd encourage everyone, if you are a member of any organization or any group of people that you trust, or you want to give to this through eopoland.org, give there. But give.
Just take action. Yeah, take action. And all those countries are doing it with the backdrop of who knows where the aggression goes next. It is just a scary time. But as Greg mentioned, they need all of that, and they need your action. So whether you pick this one, or you go to care.org, or if you go to Salvation Army came up, Dominic highly recommended them, Doctors Without Borders, you name it. Do your homework, but just give what you can. There's no amount too small. All right, that's going to wrap up. We went over a little bit here today. Thanks for all the wonderful comments. Envor, great to have you here today. I appreciate you joining us, I think, for the first time from South Africa. So thanks so much for that. Folks, whatever you do, talking about it isn't enough. Scott Luton and Greg White challenging you to, hey, do good, give forward, be the change that's needed. And on that note, we see you next time right back here on Supply Chain Now. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.